The midnight shift cold open. There are nights you carry with you, not because they were eventful, not because something exploded or someone screamed, or the world cracked open in some obvious way. You carry them because they change something, some quiet gear in the back of your mind, something you can't name, something you can't unfeel. This is about two of those nights, and one more that came much later. Part 1. The Man with Empty Eyes. I want you to picture a gas station, not a bright, busy one near a highway overpass. I mean the kind that sits at the edge of a county road where the nearest streetlight is a quarter-mile behind you, and the only reason you even know the place is open is that faint yellow glow bleeding out through tinted windows. That was where I worked. Graveyard shift, 11 at night to 7 in the morning. Just me, a cash register, a rack of stale beef jerky, and the kind of silence that has its own texture. Most people never really experience silence like that. There's always something, a fan, a car outside, a television in the next room. But real silence, the kind where you can hear the fluorescent lights humming above you, that kind gets inside you. You stop noticing it the same way you stop noticing your own breathing. And then the door chimes. He walked in at somewhere past 2 in the morning, tall, broad, the kind of build you notice, not threatening, just present. And for the first half second, I registered him the same way I registered every customer. A quick glance, a mental note, back to the magazine. But something made me look up again. I don't know if it was instinct or the way he moved or something my brain picked up before my eyes had even finished processing. But I looked up, and what I saw didn't make sense. He was covered in blood. Not a cut, not a scrape. I mean covered. A dark, wet stain spread across his chest like something had burst. Streaks down his arms, his face. The kind of image your brain just refuses to accept. It keeps trying to find another explanation. Paint, maybe. A film prop, a prank. But your body knows before your mind does. And my body was already going cold. Here's what I think about now when I replay it. It wasn't the blood that scared me most. It was his eyes. They were empty, not angry, not wild, not even particularly alert. He looked like a man who had stopped for a soda on the way home from work. He picked up a few items, walked slowly up the aisle, set them on the counter. And when he finally looked at me, really looked at me, he smiled, a calm, almost gentle smile, and he said, "Don't worry, it's not my blood." As if that helped. I nodded, I rang him up, I took his cash. I did not look him in the eyes again. The door chimed. A car started somewhere in the dark lot outside. And the very second, I heard those tires begin to pull away. I grabbed the phone. I was mid-sentence with the dispatcher when the door chimed again. He had seen me through the window. He knew exactly what I was doing. And the calm, empty expression he'd worn before? Gone. What came through that door was something else entirely. I won't describe what happened in detail. I'll only tell you that there was a moment, flat on the floor, hands around my throat, when I genuinely believed that was it for me. I said the only thing I could think of. I told him I had a gun. I didn't. But something in the way I said it must have landed, because he stopped. He scrambled to his feet. The door chimed one last time, and his tires screamed out of that parking lot like something was chasing him. I stayed on the floor for a while. The police came. They saw the state I was in. They left to look for him. I never heard from them again. Not once. No news report. No follow-up call. Nothing. Chakakur Part 2. The Man in the Suit. More measured, slower, like you're still not sure what it meant. A few months passed. I'd like to tell you I quit that job, that the rational part of my brain won out, but I needed the money. And there's a particular kind of denial that only people who've survived something awful will understand, that quiet voice that says, that was a one-time thing. That doesn't happen twice. It was another late night, and this time the man who walked in was wearing a suit. Not a rumpled blazer, not a sports coat, a suit, dark gray, tailored, the kind you see in boardrooms, not gas stations. He didn't look at the shelves, didn't reach for a bottle of water, didn't even glance at the register. He walked directly to me, and without a word, without a single greeting, he reached into the inside breast pocket of that jacket and placed a photograph on the counter. I looked down. It took me a moment. The photograph was slightly blurred, but I knew that face. I would have known it anywhere. I kept my expression as neutral as I could manage. I don't think I succeeded. He watched me the way a scientist watches a petri dish, patient, clinical, waiting for a reaction. Then, after a silence that felt like it had its own weight, he spoke. His voice was low, rough at the edges, like gravel shifting under a tire. He asked me if I'd ever seen that man before. I said no. I still don't know exactly why I lied. Instinct, maybe. The same instinct that makes an animal go still. Something about the way he asked, the way he looked, told me that the truth would not protect me. He didn't respond right away. He just held my gaze. Those cold, calculating eyes, measuring something I couldn't see. Then he picked the photograph back up, turned toward the door, and just before he stepped outside, he stopped. He turned back around, and he looked at me one more time. I know you're lying. Then he was gone. Interlude. The silver SUV. I want to be clear about something. I'm not a paranoid person. I don't see patterns in coincidences. I don't read meaning into things that don't have any. So when I started noticing the same silver SUV outside the gas station, then in the parking lot of my grocery store, then finally on my own street, I didn't want to believe what that meant. I told myself I was wrong. I told myself for 2 weeks. Then one night I was pulled out of sleep by the sound of breaking glass. I grabbed the bat I kept under the bed, ran into the living room. No one was there, but on the floor, surrounded by the ruin of my front window, was a single rock, the size of a fist, no note, no explanation needed. Some messages don't require words. I quit the next morning, found a new apartment 3 towns over, then less than a year later moved again, this time far out of state, and the SUV never followed. But I've never been able to stop asking the question I'll probably never answer. Who was the man in the suit? What was he looking for? And what did the bloodied stranger he was hunting do that night that was terrible enough to send someone like that after him? I'll never know. Part 3. The thing in the truck bed. New voice energy, quicker, more visceral. This is recent. This last one happened about 8 months ago. I want to be upfront. Nothing about this night seemed unusual at first. That's what makes it unsettling. The danger was already inside the story before I even knew the story had started. I was driving home, 3 hours out, coming off a long job that had run well past dark. About 45 minutes in, I pulled off the highway to sleep in a gas station parking lot. Nothing special, nothing memorable. I was out almost the second I closed my eyes. When I woke up, maybe an hour later, the lot was empty. I pulled back onto the highway. For 20 minutes, nothing. Just the dark road and the muscle memory of driving. And then I started hearing something, a low rhythmic thump, coming from behind me. I turned the AC down, listened, assumed it was a tool rattling around in the truck bed, made a mental note to check it, turned the radio up, and the sound stopped, not gradually, not the way metal settles. It just stopped. I remember thinking, even then, even half awake, that it was strange, that inanimate objects don't just stop because you get frustrated. But I kept driving. Then the back window exploded. Not shattered, exploded. An impact so sudden and so loud that I swerved before I'd even processed what I was hearing. I turned around, and there was a man standing in my truck bed. He had one of my own tools in his hand, and he was using it to beat the glass divider behind my head, over and over and over, the way an animal does when it's panicking, the way something does when it's been trapped. I almost flipped the truck. I don't fully understand how I didn't. I pulled over. I got out. I chased him for about 4 seconds before I remembered it was pitch black. I didn't know if he had a weapon, and we were completely alone on that road. I ran back to my truck, drove. When I finally stopped again to check the damage, I found something else in the bed. A trash bag, small, tightly wrapped. Something inside it. It smelled wrong. That specific, unmistakable wrongness of things that have started to decay. I threw it into the tree line without thinking, and it was only when I looked down at my hands and then saw the red staining my palms that I understood. I drove home, washed my hands until the water ran clear, didn't call anyone, didn't file a report. I've never been able to explain exactly why. I think some part of me understood that there are situations in this world where the kindest thing you can do is simply refuse to know more. Whatever was in that bag, whatever that man was carrying, wherever he was running from, I left it all in the dark at the side of that road, and I drove home. Sleep well?